cancer and diabetes. The public has been encouraged to take their health seriously and engage in wellness activities to keep their bodies healthy. Zimbabwean activist Pastor Evan Mawarire pleaded not guilty to charges of misconduct and inciting a crowd to cause violence. Mawarire, an outspoken opponent of President Robert Mugabe, became popular with his #ThisFlag movement that challenged Mugabe's government over the country's economic crisis. Responding in court after the charges were read out in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, he said he was not guilty. Mawarire is jointly charged with his colleague Ocean Chiota, and the pair were arrested in June for allegedly addressing medical students who were striking over a hike in fees at the University of Zimbabwe. The trial will continue on September 28th. Mawarire is also facing separate charges of trying to remove the government, for which he will appear in court on September 25th. And for more stories, log on to GapsFM.com or #GapsFM News on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud. GapsFM News, bringing the world closer to you.
GapsFM weather.
Maung Kasane, Francistown, Silibepikwe and the surrounding areas fine and hot. Khansi Tsabong Khabarone and the surrounding areas fair and hot. Forecast minimum temperatures for tomorrow: Maung 15, Kasane 14, Francistown 10, Silibepikwe 12, Khabarone 14, Tsabong 12, Khansi 17.
This weather report was proudly brought to you by Jamal Trading Company, your #1 supplier in building materials and hardware.
Gabs FM, today's hits, yesterday's classics. Welcome to the Business Hour with myself, Kathy Malajani. We are together all the way till 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us. And we start off the show looking at the stock market update. I've got Kilo Gitlafete in the studio. If you remember, last week we were talking bond markets and looking at their relevance. Today, this week, we continue the conversation and we are looking at dividends, looking at their payouts and factors that influence payout decisions. We also get into business news a little later on. We do have Leadership Wednesday with Lorato. That happens at about 6:30. It's powered by Pinalead. And then a little later on, I think our biggest topic for the day, our trending issue, is one where we're talking Forex trading. And we have Gigase Forex talking to us. We've got Gitzo Soholudu, who had this conversation with us, and we'll be sharing with you our knowledge of how you pretty much have to be ready and willing to lose the money that you invest when you are talking the Forex trading. So that's how we're starting off the show, and I want to get straight into it by taking this time to remind you that the gentleman that we talk stock market updates with is a gentleman that is part qualified chartered accountant with the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA. He holds an honors degree in accounting and finance with the University of Derby, UK. And make sure you check out the summaries of the discussions that we have here on the Business Hour on his Facebook page. It's simply called Kilo Gitlafete. You can also find them on the Gabs FM news page. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Ritziman Kwitsafalo, aka WizKid. You are listening to the Business Hour on Gabs FM.
All right, as we get started, it's 6:08, and we want to take this time to wish Kilo a very good evening and welcome him to the show. How are you, Kilo?
Good evening, Kathy, and good evening to the audience at home. It's a pleasure to actually be here.
We were talking bond markets last week, and we're continuing this conversation to looking this week at dividends, the payouts, and the factors that influence the payout decisions. And we want to look at what actually determines the earnings per share. And I think the first thing we want to find out is, what is a dividend and how frequent are they?
In one of the weeks that we're here, I've mentioned a bit on what would happen is so o tlo wo tsenya madi a go moteng ga kompone yone ye wa dumela gore tla mona go ntse e tswelela e tla nantse go akanyetsa madi e go wa anya moteng. So ideally I would say gore dividends are the fruits of your investment, and usually mo Botswana it happens gore most companies they pay out their dividends biannually. That is usually at the 6th month of their annual report or whenever that they please. Usually it can happen where if our company has made a lot of profits or it has a lot of money, they can do what you call a bonus dividend. This is unusual, but it does happen. But then on a more common basis or general basis, the company pays out dividends biannually.
Like it was a jana Kilo unzo re fa se ka isa gore o kae tlhalosa jaaka ka re ke kgomo mme o ra itse gore kgomo ga o sa e yang ena mathata ke batla go itse gore a mme ga ka o le motho o rekileng di shares go ntse fela jalo as a shareholder is it a must that you receive dividends?
Maybe ke gata le moganyano e bua ka ntla kgomo yona wa sa e anye ka nna le mathata, but in this case maidi ga a tswa a kwa accounteng ya gago, and then it can be up to you gore me gone do you want to enjoy this benefit that you've just received, or in this case do you want to reinvest your money? Yeah, no, but in this particular instance it is not a must that a company pays out a dividend to you, because one, like to distinguish what we have two types of shareholders. We have what you call a preference shareholder who is given a standard dividend whenever a dividend is being paid, and this is regardless of whether a company has made a profit or a loss. And then on the other hand, there's what you call an ordinary shareholder, whom on the other hand is subject to receiving dividends if a company has made profits, or that is subject to sharing a loss if a company makes a loss. And then the payout of a dividend is usually at the discretion of management to actually say and recommend maybe $1 million pula mo Kilo Enterprises gompieko, so you're probably going to pay out maybe 40 million out of that 100 million or relay. And then also it goes back to say as shareholders we have what you call voting rights. So with those voting rights, what happens is that you at the annual general meeting you're going to decide collectively that do you need to pay out a dividend of so much, or do you not want to pay a dividend of so much. So it's usually at the discretion of management, but it is not a must that a company pays out a dividend. It's up to you collectively as shareholders. Do you want to decide on paying those dividends?
Just briefly before we remind our listeners that they can call or SMS, I want to find out from you, between preference and ordinary shareholders, is there a difference in price when you're buying these shares to make you, that preferred shareholder that must get paid?
There's obviously a difference, because with ordinary shareholders, what will happen is the price at which you're buying the shares is usually dependent on the quoted market prices that are there on the open market. And then with preference shareholders, what usually happens sometimes is that they use what you call your par values, or the value at which the share was initially issued at. There's usually at a nomination of 1 pula. So it may happen that you're probably buying 100 shares and you're probably going to buy them at 100 pula. And then the company will then decide to say, no, because you bought so many shares, we're going to give you a standard of so much every single 6 months or every single year. And that's the standard you're getting, regardless of whether the company is making a profit or a loss.
14962 is our SMS line, and you can call through to the studio line, which is 3956962. Get a hold of us and pose your questions to Kilo. I'm sure he'll be very happy to answer them. We'll be right back. Don't you go anywhere.
I love my wire car. After a long day of driving and exploring, the first thing I do when I get home is make sure it's still working perfectly. I check my tires, my steering wheel, then I check if my wheels are all in line.
Now you're grown up and you drive a real car with real problems which need real solutions. Why not let us do the same for your car today? At DriveSure, we offer service, maintenance, and warranty plans to ensure your car drives just as good as your wire car did. Contact us on 311-4678 or visit us at www.drivesure.co.bw. DriveSure, journey on.
Hi, this is Laura Thomas Atangani from Kinalid. Join me on the Leadership Corner on GAPS FM Business Hour every Wednesday evening at 6:30. Hashtag all things leadership. Hi, this is Laura Thomas Atangani from Kinalid. Join me on the Leadership Corner on GAPS FM Business Hour every Wednesday evening at 6:30. Hashtag all things leadership.
Hi, my name is Imre Katona. I am a president of Brightstar. You are listening to the Business Hour with Kathy Malijani and GAPS FM.
GAPS FM, today's hits, yesterday's classics. As we continue the conversation, we still have in studio with us Kilo Ketlafetse talking this week about dividends. I want to find out, Kilo, because these are common terms that are written on financial statements, and I'm talking about phrases such as retained earnings or revaluation reserves. What do those mean? Is that your money or my money? What's happening with those?
Let me start off first with what you call your revaluation reserve. As a company, we're going to own a number of assets, whether it be buildings, land, investment property, or cars, vehicles, you name it. Every single time that, for example, if I made an example of land, every single time your land appreciates, what happens is that it increases in value, or your investment property appreciates, increases in value. Those increases in valuations is what falls into what you call your revaluation reserve. Now, on the other hand, your retained earnings usually refers to when your company makes a profit. That profit is then retained into an account which is called retained earnings. And then this accumulates over the years because you're going to be having profits that you made in the previous year, this year, next year, and it accumulates further. So in terms of if it's our cash or not, it's effectively our cash because you're going to have your assets, you're going to have your liabilities. The net off of these two is what falls out into what you call equity. A component of equity is what you call your retained earnings. And ideally, yes, it is our money. But in terms of can we get it there and then, that's a different story because it's either one, you can share it out as dividends by milking your cow per se, or you can retain that money for expansion of the company and future development prospects.
And again, these would be decisions that are made by management, as you mentioned earlier.
It's usually a recommendation from management, but then the overall decision, the final decision is usually made up in the annual general meeting by the shareholders collectively.
All right, retained earnings, what are those?
Retained earnings, I've mentioned that these are the net off of our assets over our liabilities, hence it's profits that accrue over the years and we have them collectively standing.
So again, you wouldn't be able to access those readily?
Readily, yes.
All right, let's move on and find out about what dividend policies are. Can you highlight a little bit about the economic sense of what they all are in the mix-up when we're talking about dividends?
Okay, let me start off first with your share price. The share price of a company largely is dependent on the future expected dividends that are going to be paid out by the company in the future. That is to say, if we have confidence that this company will actually make a lot of dividends come the next 5 years or so, then that will increase our share price. So it has an effect on what it'll say, what our company is profitable or not, because the share price does detect if a company is profitable or not. So the type of dividend policy that the company sets out needs to keep the investors with hope that the company will perform well, because that way, that's what we're going to say where the company is performing well in the economic sense. So the management style and influence that they have on a company is very important. So management need to be careful on how they get their companies and how they direct their companies.
Right, let's move on and look at what you've just said. I want to find out whether you think that the level of dividends would ever be relevant.
If I may bring theory into this, I'm more of an academic person. There's a theorist called Modigliani and Miller. They believe that dividends are not as important as profits because profits dictate whether a dividend can be paid or not in the first place. So what will happen sometimes is if you're going to pay out a large dividend as a company, what you're saying is you're taking out a lot of your retained earnings. If you're taking them out, that means that you're going to have little money for expansion. And then if you have little money for expansion, it means that there's little growth in your company. And then on the other hand, if you're going to be paying out a smaller dividend, what it says is that you're going to be having a lot of money that is being retained. And if you have a lot of money retained, that it means that you're going to have more of your operational activities. So in that way, that means you're going to be making more money in the future, hence more dividends in the future. And if your share price appreciates in the future, it means that you now have more money standing within your share price. Because maybe today you bought your share at 1 pula and then come the next 5 years, it's now 10 pula. So that difference, you've made a profit.
Generally, what do companies try to practice when we're talking dividend policies?
What companies try to do is set out what you call a steady dividend pattern, because what they don't want to do is create a signal or rather create an influence per se or a bias to kind of say, no, fine, if we're going to be paying out a lot of dividend, we're profitable, because that may not be the case. And then on the other hand, you don't want to say, I want to pay out a smaller dividend, because what investors usually think is, because and if that's the case, that lowers the expectations of what the shareholders expect from you as a company. And if the lowest expectations means that your share price as well goes down, and if it goes down, it means you're falling behind your competitors and you're losing money in the long run, because investors lose confidence in you. But investors, I'm talking about your shareholders and then your lenders as well, because they want to know if the profitability of your company.
Beautiful stuff, Kilo. It's always a pleasure to have you in studio. Thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, you can find summaries of these discussions on Kilo's Facebook page. Mm-hmm. If you type Kilo Ketfafetsi, you'll be able to find them as well as on the Gabs FM news page. Thank you, Kilo.
Thank you very much, Katie.
Moving on to business news this week, there's lack of transparency between BMC and farmers, and the Botswana Meat Commission, BMC, is said to be experiencing issues such as lack of trust and transparency in their interactions with farmers. Speaking at a livestock producers send-off ceremony to Norway this weekend in Gaborone, President of Botswana Beef Producers Union, Madongo Diring, noted that farmers lack understanding of market prices.
tota gompieko re na le yone ngongorego ya gore ga gona transparency ka gore ga re itse gore ga gote re duelwa 23 pula other markets 36 pula EU o tsalwa ke eng o tswa ga kae go tlhokagala eng ga go tlhokagaleng yaanong gore ga this opportunity gore re a go itseela ka tsebe re a go iponela ka matho a rona gore ke se se tlhokagala ga gote quality go bua ka quality e ntseng jang ga go tswa kong re tla tsa peo re ta re jwala kwane re jwala le ha sile lo thela Botswana ka re rata industry ya rona ebile re eletsa industry ya rona e ka tswelela.
Hi, my name is Thabo Simon. I am Bright Star Botswana. You are listening to Business Hour with Kathy Malejane on GAPS FM.
GAPS FM, today's hits, yesterday's classics. As we continue on with our business news this week, De Beers launches Go-to-Market Initiative. De Beers has partnered with Stanford Graduate School of Business in an effort to create jobs, diversify the economy, and increase regional prosperity in Southern Africa. On top of the seed program that focuses on entrepreneurs and established businesses, the partnership will also birth another program dubbed Go-to-Market, which will focus on youth and aspiring entrepreneurs. The Go-to-Market Initiative will be an intensive one-week entrepreneurship boot camp to help budding entrepreneurs gain the confidence and skills to commercialize their business ideas. The program will also afford participants the capacity to accelerate their route to market. Both the Seed and Go-to-Market programs will be headquartered at the Botswana Innovation Hub. Moving on with the other news, looking at international news. Pioneering entrepreneur Baroness Lane Fox says the rise of cyberbullying and monopolistic business practices has damaged trust in the internet. TheLastMinute.com founder has also called for a shared set of principles to make the web happier and safer. Baroness Lane Fox co-founded travel booking site LastMinute.com in 1998. That is before going on to sell the firm for £577 million 7 years later. Very shortly, we get on into our Leadership Wednesday with Laura.
I believe I'm a steady person. I'm quite supportive. I'm a supportive friend. I'm a supportive person in general.
Influentially, what I fall under it. Perceive to other people, like build excitement for the other people, to make people to be good, to create things that people can love.
I'm very social, I'm very outgoing, I'm very talkative, influential. I'm quite influential in my life. You put it as manipulative, yeah.
I will fall under the D because it describes the type of personality that I have. Dominant, direct, decisive, doer, domineering and demanding.
GAPS FM Business Hour, Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m.
GAPS FM, today's hits, yesterday's classics. We start early our Leadership Wednesday with Lorato. Remember, it's powered by Pinalead and it's about raising the leadership lid. I want to take this time to welcome in studio with us. I love it. She says she wants to be remembered by hashtag all things leadership. We have in studio with us Lorato Mosetlanyane. A very warm welcome to you. A good evening and welcome to the Business Hour.
Good evening, Kathy, and good evening, GAPS FM listeners.
Now, we're talking today about all things leadership hashtag, and I think we if you can just start off with a recap of last week's conversation.
Yes, last week we talked about why leadership is important, and we said for the simple reason that everything rises and falls on leadership. And I've said leadership is the difference maker. The difference between any equally talented organizations is definitely the leadership. So when the leadership is good, everything is good, everybody is happy. But when the leadership is not that good, everybody suffers. Yeah.
Well, we also talked about why it's important to be a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just break that down for us?
The importance of being a good leader cannot be overemphasized because leadership, as I said, is about courage. It's about taking people somewhere. And if you're really not good, it's not a number of people that would want to rally behind you and allow you to influence anything about them. So one really have to be a good leader for people to willingly follow them.
I would like you to go through two of the other things we mentioned last week, and there was just some myths on leadership and also some of the characteristics of a good leader.
we talked about the position myth. We tend to convince ourselves that once somebody is given a leadership title, they automatically become the leader. And what I highlighted is the leader that makes the position and not the other way around. Nobody can ever be a leader because they've been given a leadership position. A leadership position gives one the platform to lead, but it doesn't make them a leader. The other one is the entrepreneurship myth. We tend to convince ourselves that good entrepreneurs are good leaders. Entrepreneurship simply means somebody has an eye to identify opportunities, but it doesn't make them a leader. One of the things about the traits of a good leader is character. They say more than 99% of leadership failures are failures in character, not leadership. So I cannot overemphasize the importance of character in leadership.
You also mentioned relationships, intuition, and things like ability as well in part of that.
Yeah, relationship for the simple reason that they're the glue that holds everything together. And as I shared last week, a majority of the issues that organizations deal with, the disciplinary issues, are mostly issues of relationship, and in a few number of cases, that's when it's basically issues of competence and delivery. It's mainly relational issues.
Lorato, I want to move on to this week, and you make it sound really easy when you talk about it, but where does a person start if they're looking to be a good leader?
Leadership is an inside job. It has to start with you as an individual. If you make that decision that I want to be a leader, you should remember that the first person that you have to lead is yourself. So it starts with you knowing who you are. Beyond your name and your gender, you have to know yourself in terms of your strengths, in terms of your weaknesses, in terms of your opportunities, and in terms of your interests, and most importantly, your sense of direction. Because remember, it's taking people somewhere, and they always say, if you don't know where you are headed to, any road will take you there. And you can imagine following a leader who doesn't have a sense of direction as to what exactly is going to happen there. So it's very important. You need to know yourself. You need to know who you are. You need to know where you are headed to. And you need to know exactly how you are going to take people there. So it really starts with yourself.
But tell me this, if somebody feels strongly that they know exactly who they are, what they want, and where they're going, what do you say to that person? Of what value is self-discovery to them?
Yeah, many times we say we know who we are and what our strengths are, and unless you have something that you can that can support what you believe about yourself, then I'll always say, you will never know, or you will never explore who you are, because by convincing yourself that you know yourself well, you simply limiting your potential. Because the more you engage in the process of uncovering who you really are, you get to know yourself better and open up the world in terms of how far you can go in terms of your potential and your ability, and exploring all the opportunities around you.
Speaking of self-discovery, I believe that I really missed out on a session that was amazing. I know the producer of this show came back to studio really hyped up. Can you just break down for me a little bit about what took place in this session that I unfortunately missed?
Yes, we took the media practitioners through the self-discovery journey, as a way of saying or helping them to start the process. Like you were saying, where does it start? Because sometimes as media practitioners, we may have to do an interview with somebody, and because of the failure to discern and understand their way of being or their personality, sometimes our personalities stand on the way and disrupt what could otherwise be a very beautiful interview. So we really unpacked the personalities, and we simply using the 4 major temperaments, identifying in terms of the dominant personality. This is a personality that it's all about power and having challenges.
the inspirational personality. That is all about fun, even in work, work has to be fun. And then the supportive personality, where it's all about a peaceful environment, and the cautious or competent personality, who want things to be perfect before they can move their finger.
I'd like to go a little bit off script here and rope in the producer of the show, Kennedy Lesole, because I know he was part of this workshop, and I want to just find out from him what he took home from having attended this particular workshop. Kennedy, which one of these four are you? How did you go about trying to identify which one of the different personalities you are?
Well, Kathy, hello to you and hello to the listeners. And my challenge was I found myself in a bit of both. I found myself within the C and within the S, that is being an introvert. And I found myself, I'm a bit people-oriented, but I'm again task-oriented. But I'd love to take Mamosa Tanyani a bit back as to where it all begins. If you realize, especially the D's and the I's,
exactly.
Or
wabala.
Yes. Laid back. So my question is, having parents saying papa lay back, and you end up bowing to your parents or your society's pressure, and diverting from who you are naturally. How then, if you are to discover as a grown up that this is who I really am, this is not who I am, how then do you break from that as to how do I get back on track?
Yeah, you've really brought up a very important element, and that's one of the impact of our cultural values on our way of being, because kastswanarare tomboto. And you'll find that goes as far as saying how buale mogolo o tshwantse o be sa thoro ga o ka ke wa leba mogolo mo mathong. And this is one of the things that we find, that when we adults and competing for certain positions, this seriously works against us, because if you go before a panel and you bring that tomboto with you and you can't look at the panel in the eyes, these are some of the things that really limit us, because somebody who's not from the same space as us, they tend to believe that we're not sure of our story, we're not confident enough. So I would say to a parent listening out there that we really have to nurture our children for who they really are. And I want to believe that for our generation, this is one of the things that has really worked against us. And we should nurture that. And of course, re ba rute setho sa rona gore yes, you have to look at people, but just guide them in terms of creating boundaries, but not really saying tombo to how bua le mogolo o dire matho and things like that, because these are the things that are really selling us short as a nation in a number of occasions.
See, you did mention parents.
Yeah.
How much of leadership role do you consider parenting to be?
Yeah, and thank you for that question, because many times when we talk leadership, we only think of leaders in the boardrooms. But as parents, we are leaders, because we are the ones that are growing our children. We are mostly their inspiration, and we model a lot of behaviors without necessarily saying that. And because we are not equipped in terms of dealing with who we are and handling it, sometimes as parents we find ourselves where we want to correct or make up for what we missed through our children. And by doing that, we move them from being their best, because then we want to replicate ourselves in them, or we want to live our lives through them, or we expect them to make up where we fell short. And that is a very unfortunate thing. It's important that we understand this, such that even in our homes, we must nurture our children in the best, or to be the best that they are created to be in their areas of strength, because that is where they can do well and not necessarily because I trained as an accountant. Therefore, my children should also be accountants. So yeah, we lead as parents.
14962 is our SMS line. You can SMS through or call on 3956962. I think there's a question that Kennedy asked that I don't quite remember the answer to, where he said, if your parents have taught you, gore tlhompotho, gore o ska nna motho e leng gore wa phapha, what do you do? I mean, are you doomed? Are you now going to be forced to be the more introverted types? How do you switch that up and be who you really are?
Yeah, if your parents have really taught you that and have really ingrained that in you, that is where coaches would come in. Because if I mean, you somewhere where I am in terms of age, this is something that you've been doing all your life. And just knowing and thinking about it is not enough, because this is something that is now ingrained and it's part of who you are. So you really need to do a number of practices and exercises, because now the awareness would be there that this Tomboto is working against me. I have to let people see me for who I really am, because Tomboto is basically saying you are selling bananas, put them in a box and cover them and wait for everybody who passes by to say, ma'am, what's in that box? What are you selling? So I'm saying we have to come out and allow everybody who's around you to experience yourself for who you really are. That calmness, that openness, that love for people, and all those things. Yeah.
Tell me, why is it important to master self in a world of so many different personalities or characters where everybody wants to be heard and they believe themselves to be right?
Yeah, if you don't have a sense of who you are, you're probably not going to be heard, because you will miss your rightful position. And it's only by mastering self that you can develop the confidence and create that right level of self-esteem. Because otherwise, if you don't fully understand who you are and you are not at peace with that, chances are you would be swallowed or overshadowed, or your low self-esteem, if you're really not sure of who you are, you doubt yourself, would really work against you. So by mastering who you are, it simply means you cannot go out and conquer the world before you conquer yourself. The first person you have to know is you. The first person you have to lead is you. The first person you have to conquer is you. So that is the long and short of it.
Yeah. Additionally to that, let's say I've then went on to master and discover myself.
Yeah.
And I found that I'm a dominant person.
Yeah.
Robert Greene, in 48 Laws of Power, one of the laws that he mentions as never outshine your master.
Yeah.
So obviously my supervisor, chances are, he's also a dominant force.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do I go about that? How do I not sabotage myself in that
regard?
Knowing
yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to ignore protocol. And if you know that you are a dominant personality and your boss is also a dominant personality, the good thing is you both live in the same world and you have a much better feel and insight of how to position yourself such that you reach out to them. The danger is if you are both dominant personality and you are not aware, because that is where we're going to have personality clashes. And the narrative that I can use in terms of a dominant personality is that of a horse. A horse is one of the most powerful animals, but we know the ones that we see in races, they're so trained and they've been trained to know when to give out the power and when to use the power, such that a 5-year-old can ride that horse. It doesn't mean that the power is no longer there. The power is there, but this horse has been trained to know when to give over the power to the 5-year-old and that. So it's not enough to know that I'm a dominant personality. That's why you have to go now further to say, now that I'm dominant, how do I show up in the different engagement and how do I use this power to work for me as opposed to work against me? Because, yeah.
I want to move on and get to find out, because we are going to run out of time, what the benefits of knowing self are. As you've said, once you know yourself, there are certain things that you need to apply to that. And then as we wrap up, I want to know about the upcoming events that you have as Pinalid.
Okay. The benefit of knowing self firstly talks to your self-image. Who you believe you are day in, day out determines how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself determines the type of person that we interact with day in, day out. If you know yourself and you've accepted yourself and you are at peace with it, we in coaching we say you are grounded. You have both your feet on the ground. So how to see we and you know yourself not in an arrogant way, such that you also know how to package and carry yourself. You don't have to announce that I've arrived. You are calm, you are confident, you are comfortable in your own skin. So, and people like that, they don't struggle with relationships, because the main challenge with relationships is our insecurities. If you're not sure about yourself, you tend to see that and hear that from everybody that interacts with you. That's why you'd hear some people strongly believing that when they walked in a room, somebody did something. It's something that is in them, and because that is your lens, you tend to see that in everybody. So knowing self, mastering self, helps with a positive self-image and a very healthy self-esteem. How to see you know who you are, and yeah.
So since I missed the session that was had this week, what's next? What are you planning next as Pinalid?
We're going to have the same program on somewhere in November. Not sure of the date yet, but it's going to be in November, because we believe this is one of the most important tools that anybody can have in terms of knowing when and knowing how, and also getting to appreciate why you tend to get well with person A and not very well with person B, simply because person A and person B are different, and we have to reach out to them differently according to some that talks and sit well with them. So we have that coming in November. We also have our Leadership Simulcast, where we will be streaming our mentor, John C. Maxwell, live from Orlando. He will be with 3 other speakers, very experts in their area, in their different area. We'll also be having Dr. John Tibani from South Africa, a medical doctor by profession, who for the past 15 years has been developing and growing leaders in his area. We've also brought in to try to fill in the gap between the local context and positioning and what we'll be getting from our international speaker.
And finally, as we wrap up, can I just ask you to give out your contact details so that if somebody is listening and they want to get a hold of you or they want to find out more information, they can go ahead and do that?
Our office line is 3914-697. 3914-697. Our mobile 7580-6975. 7580-6975. Can WhatsApp us on 7764-9548, 7764-9548, or drop us an email on info@pinalid.com, info@pinalid.com, or catch us on social media. We available on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Just check Pinalid Pty Ltd.
Thank you so much, Lorato. It's a pleasure having you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Kathy. My pleasure.
We continue, and just to remind you that it takes money to make money, and that is the concept when we're talking foreign exchange trading. Today, we're exploring this form of trading in our quest to simplify and enhance your knowledge as the listener. Listen in. Gabs FM, today's hits, yesterday's classics. It takes money to make money, and that is the concept in Forex trading. Today we're exploring this form of trading in our quest to simplify and enhance your knowledge as the listener. We have in studio with us from Gigase Forex, Kitso Suguludi. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining the Business Hour.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right. Now, first of all, what is Forex trading? Now, we know the word comes from foreign exchange trading, which involves the selling of money. But what actually goes on? What's the practice of Forex trading?
Forex trading, in its simplest term, is more